3/4 wide fist crack that pretty much goes right into a hand crack. You could place a number 2 Camelot black diamond if you really want it to be secure, but honestly, if you keep going up, you're gonna get to some bomber, pretty thin hands where you can place. I use ultralights, Metolius master cams. I placed a 3 and a 4, and where you place these, you're able to go back down into that pretty wide crack and kind of get a better rest. That way you can really fire through that cruxy top sequence. So right here, I'm placing that number 4 Metolius master cam. Taking a little break, making sure that you're switching your hands while you're placing gear. That's super important when you're really climbing at your limit. Chalking up, of course, getting chalk in Josh's face. The most ideal position for him, obviously. And then now here I'm placing that second piece. So why I place 2 pieces here is, while the climb is pretty short, you always want 2 pieces between you and the deck. Both pieces were bomber, but better safe than sorry is what I've been taught. So if you can get 2 pieces in and be pretty confident above those pieces, you're going to climb much better. Confidence is key. So climbing up through, gonna get into a little bit of the harder section. Still pretty bomber locks. You can fit, I think, basically to your metacarpals. Not your metacarpals, your phalanges, sorry. Placing another, and my final piece, a master cam, a number 5, and pretty much this is your piece that's going to protect the crux. If you're confident in this climbing style, thin cracks, I would say this can be your last piece, especially since it gets pretty technical and involved. I chose, as we'll see in a second, to lie back this crux. You can jam it straight forward, but honestly, it just felt nice. I'll just wait to describe the situation, but there's a pretty bomber foot that you'll get on that side of the left side of the dihedral. So jamming fingers, pretty positive. Pretty much there's a decent amount of constrictions in this crack to where you can pretty much hang on these. So there's that pretty positive foothold. Still using the crack. There we go with the side pull. And pretty much the climb's over once you get to this massive jug underneath this small little roof alcove. Just threw for it there, and the climb's pretty much summed up there. You can continue up. You can continue up all the way to the top of the block, and get that nice view, especially of Rex Roads. Just I believe south of you, and the top is a bit chossy. You can kind of beach whale like I did right here, especially since that last piece is a little bit below you and the ground's not too far off. So just be aware if you peek around that arete, the rock's pretty loose, so maintaining contact with either the arete or the main face. Then you can just hop up, obviously being cautious. You could place another piece in that horizontal crack, but the climbing right here is 5.2, 5.3. So summing that up, pretty stoked. Good little view of all the little blocks surrounding, and yeah, that is passive aggression. Well done.
Fuck yeah. Wow.
I'm holding on with my feet. Alright, so starting off, cat crack, 511B fingers. You can definitely place right off the ground. I chose to use a Master Cam 0, that's the purple one. And this will just protect those first 2 difficult moves. Really, you want gear. You probably want another piece right there. I choose to place in a second a golden DMM offset nut. And these first few moves are pretty strenuous, so you want to make sure that you have that piece accessible. I chose to doggy bone it, but it's to each their own. Just don't chomp too hard and chip your teeth. So pretty strenuous, good jam right here with the right hand to a pretty poor left hand jam, but if you keep going up, pushing through this with that 0 as your protection, you're going to be okay. That left hand that I'm hanging on is bomber. You're not going to fall off that if you get that correctly locked. A couple more hard moves and it's going to pull up over this bulge and you're going to get a nice slabby rest. I choose to place one more piece of protection simply because we were just so close to the ground. You know, when it comes to protection, it's the leader's choice. So, you know, if you want to place less gear or more gear, feel free. But this is just what I was comfortable with. I placed another finger-sized piece, a TCU. In this case, it was just because I only had a TCU and a master cam, number 2. Those yellow pieces, and I wanted that master cam for a higher move up top. Crack was pretty wet, so I chose more so nuts. I chose 2 more nuts than I anticipated I would choose. But right here, we got that great rest. You know, if you move a little bit left, there's a bomber left foothold that you can really hang out on and, you know, contemplate the gear. So right here, just hanging out, considering what to place. The crack, as I said, was pretty sopping. I think I placed another 0. You could squeeze probably a 1 TCU in there, but this one was pretty passive. Like, this was a bomber placement that was also passively placed. So considering that the crack was wet, I was really confident in this piece, especially protecting these last few difficult moves. Just, you know, readjusting, ensuring that everything's good. Gonna continue up right here. Always working my feet in the crack if I can, because those sides are super glassy, aside from some bomber feet. Gonna go up into a flaring pocket that you can actually get. You could jam your hands in, but I chose to place a larger piece simply because a red Camelot, you can't beat that. It slides in like butter. Placing it off a right hand, that was bomber. It slotted down into a constriction. Really working those hands up into the crack. Pretty confidence inspiring to move above that red Camelot. Doesn't get much better than that. Continuing my feet up in the crack. Bomber finger jams, I should say. My TCU, or my TC Pros, my right one was pretty blown out, so it's definitely doable with poor shoes. So here I place another black DMM nut, a little slip there, and you know, simply because this crack is just full of the constrictions that you seek out for these nut placements. Honestly, you could probably climb it on all passive gear. It'd be a bit tenuous to stop and continually place nuts, but if you have it sussed out, I wouldn't say it was a big deal. So here's that final master cam that I was talking about, that yellow one. This is protecting, you know, somewhat of a mantle, placing it pretty high up. That way I don't have to stop and worry about it, because this position that I'm in right now is a bomber rest. Readjusted it a bit, and just below it, you know, that black DMM, both of those are very confidence inspiring. Gonna sum it up. The climb's basically over after about these next 6 moves. You're gonna get to a pretty bomber ledge, you'll see. But here, you know, just shaking out, taking advantage of that rest. Chalking up for the final few moves, getting that bomber lock. The crack is pretty narrow here. You can get tips in, and then you get a pretty good 2-finger pull right in this little alcove. And that master cam is bomber with that left hand. Those are the 2 fingers that are really good. Kind of a mantle up here to the side pull, and you know, you can whip all day on that master cam. I took a fall, and this climbing right here is nothing more than 5'10". So if you're a confident 5'10" leader, you'll be okay. That final DMM blue nut, bomber placement and constriction. And that can be your last piece. I think I placed one more piece. I actually changed up my gear beta on the climb. That black diamond red number 1 I normally use at the top, but it just felt right to use there. This blue DMM is definitely confidence inspiring as well. Constriction is great, rock quality is perfect. You're going to do a pretty far high step up with a side pull on this to a bomber tree grab. That tree is definitely in the way of the crack, and I would say it's definitely hands-on. You can use the tree, no worries, because there's not much else to use. I mean, you could go above it, but why not use a tree when you're given one? Moving through, that tree definitely was thankful for all that rain. Unfortunately, my fingers weren't. It was pretty wet. Getting that. This is the part where a number 1 black diamond C4 Camelot would have been ideal. I chose to jam in a number 7 master cam, that light blue guy. Definitely would have held the fall. Definitely overcammed. But you know, safety first. I hear a lot of people talking safety third because it's a joke, but in all reality, you know, crack roaches are all about the safety, even though we take massive whips on top rope. So that sums up the climb. Cat Crack 11B.
Express yourself, man. That's your project.
It was my project since August. Give it at least 4 TRs. Hi. And 3 leads. 2 of the leads I slipped down low, and then on the kind of mantle in the 3/4 section. But now, clean send. Stoked, dude. Victory whip for the send on Cat Crack. So stoked. That's how to do it, I think. And loose.
There it is!